Hello, everyone. Those who know and love games also know what an incredibly powerful and influential communications medium we are. Not only do people who play games love to have fun and to explore the worlds that we create, they also really care about those worlds. Games also have a unique reach into the lives and minds of almost 3 billion people around the world of all ages and all identities. They're brilliant vehicles to help us as humans understand the world around us, to understand consequences of decisions and actions that we take and make. They have the potential to be giant empathy machines. Whether you play games or not, the impact of climate change affects us all, as individuals, as communities, and as part of the games industry that we work in. And as an important, powerful, and responsible sector, we have huge influence. If this pandemic has taught us anything as humans, it is that we can make massive changes in the way that we behave when we have to. This is the kind of collective action that our planet needs now. As businesses, it can seem a daunting challenge. How do you change your practices? How do you change the ways that you've just been used to doing? Well, we know that many games companies have already taken their power to activate change, to build a carbon-free future right into their DNA. Playmob, Supercell, Space Ape, Sports Interactive, Ustwo, to name just a few. So this Green Games Guide that we are launching this week aims to help share the learnings they and others have had in order to help other games businesses understand how they can make the changes in the way that they run their businesses to support, not to scar, the environment, and how they might use their games as a really powerful communications medium that they are to really help players make a difference too. 2030 is now a key date by which the planet must have a significant reduction in CO2 output. Ukie itself, as a company, is committing to going carbon net zero by 2022 by reducing our carbon emissions and offsetting what we can't cut or avoid. And we want to help the wider industry think about how they can do this by 2030, but sooner. These goals are key elements of UN's Playing for the Planet Alliance. And that's why we, as Ukie, are joining them as a sign of our commitment to change and as another way to start discussions on a global level to collectively make a difference. And we want this incredible, influential industry of ours to sign up to. This genuinely is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Because if we don't collectively as humans and as businesses make changes now, there will be no lifetimes left to do it. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Dan Wood. I'm Ukie's Special Projects Lead, and I'm part of the team that helped pull the Green Games Guide together. As a games business, it can be hard to know where to start to tackle the climate crisis, and that's why we've partnered with Games London with help from the UN's Playing for the Planet to produce our Green Games Guide. Now, we want the Green Games Guide to do three things. Firstly, we want it to help create a better understanding of the impact the sector has on the environment. Secondly, we want to help companies think about ways they can improve their approach to sustainability and reduce their emissions. And thirdly, we want to start conversations about wider collective efforts we can make as a sector. So as well as these things, we also want to encourage the sector to think about how to use its huge reach to inspire players to think about how they interact with the environment. And we provide examples of how games businesses are already doing this. There's also the need to think about environmental impact collectively. So you can read more about the UN's Playing for the Planet initiative that lots of games businesses have already signed up to, pledging to make a difference across various initiatives. We want to encourage the sector to think about how we can further collaborate on data collection and the shared goals and targets that we might shape to bring our impact on the planet down. We've made some suggestions for how we can start shaping this more collective action too. But one of the key messages we want games businesses to take away from the guide is the need to take urgent action to reduce carbon emissions by 2030, if not sooner. So with input from Playing for the Planet and others, we've produced some advice and give a 5-step process for how games businesses can start to do this straight away. So step 1, define your scope and timeline to reduce your carbon footprint. Now, measuring your carbon footprint is a crucial first step towards making your business more sustainable in the long term. But before you start gathering numbers, you should take time to understand what it is you actually want to measure. So, for example, whether you need to limit your analysis to internal company activities, or whether, as many Playing for the Planet Alliance member companies currently do, you will also count your supply chain and the energy and emissions people use while playing your games. So once you've done that, you can go on to calculating your carbon footprint. You have to understand more about the impact your company has if you want to effectively cut your emissions. It can take time, but it will allow you to identify where you should focus your efforts, help establish short and longer term targets, and will motivate your team to own the activity required to reduce your emissions. Now, capturing data will include energy use in your office, your employees' travel, capital purchases such as laptops, computers, and other computers, and depending on your scope, could include speaking to your partners and suppliers and gathering player data from your games. Now, as you start, you may need to estimate placeholder values and improve your entries as better data becomes available, and that's fine. There are tools that you can use to help you understand how to do this, and we signpost a few of these in the guide. So once you've measured, you're ready for step 3. To take bold, ambitious action to reduce your carbon footprint. There are many ways you can make your office, home workspaces, and your operations more energy efficient. And this can be as simple as switching off all computers when they're not in use, making better use of natural light, or just turning your heating down 1 degree. But it's also looking at replacing obsolete equipment and at using more energy efficient technology throughout your organization. Don't forget that your data storage needs energy to run and cool servers. The more data you store, the higher your carbon emissions. So do an audit of the data you store, remove duplicates or old files, and speak to your server providers to find out how they sustainably consume energy. Taking a fresh look at your travel policies can significantly reduce your carbon emissions too. So when you think about commuting, where possible, use public transport, or even better, encourage walking or cycling through things like providing cycle ownership schemes. And when traveling longer distances, always consider rail over air. But of course, if you have to fly, just make sure you offset. There's increasing evidence that how games are coded, digitally stored, and distributed can have an impact on the energy that is used when they're downloaded, streamed, or played. Essentially, your game's coding can determine your audience's device's energy consumption, and this is an emerging area, but there's lots of opportunity for games business to lead the thinking in this space. There are also some simple principles you can apply to the items you use or consume in your office that will cut emissions, cut waste, and save you money. Now, the most important principle you should apply is that you should first reduce and prevent waste before finding ways to reuse and recycle it. And finally, as well as cutting waste and reducing energy usage, you should also look to switching to sustainable energy tariffs. I'm going to provide tips for how you can do this too. So on to step 4. When you've looked at how you can directly reduce your business's carbon footprint and it's impossible to reduce anymore, hit the offset button. To offset other emissions through offsetting schemes. Now, offsetting schemes can benefit the environment in a number of ways, such as creating more renewable energy sources, or replanting forests, or increasing environmentally friendly land use. Many also offer pro-social and poverty benefits, which add a deeper value. When exploring where to invest, always look for win-wins for people and the planet. It's certainly worth shopping around. It's bound to be one that chimes with the priorities or interests that you or your teams have. And finally, step 5, ratchet, review, and recommend to others. Go the extra mile and share with your communities. So there's always more you can do to make your company as green, as clean as possible. So these additional steps can take you to the next level. So ratchet and review each year. The measure, reduce, offset process is a continuous improvement cycle. Each year, you should evaluate and improve your data and revisit your progress against your goals. It's crucial you engage with staff throughout this process, and staff engagement can not only reduce the cost of action, but also increases staff retention among the growing workforce who seek companies with purpose. And achieving ambitious goals together can build the skills and propel your teams in other areas as well. Equally, you should get your games playing community on board. Explore how your games community can support and engage with your work. Consider how you can integrate environmental aspects into your games and join a green game jam, riff on ideas for how to incorporate green themes ideas into your games. And finally, join the collective adventure to learn from others and join the efforts to adapt our industry environmental challenges. So you can sign up to Playing for the Planet and join Ukie Sustainability Working Group to share thoughts and best practices with other games industry people. So we hope the guide and the advice it contains is a useful starting point for games businesses to engage with the discussions around the environment and the impact of climate change, and crucially to start to undertake and inspire the action required to create a more sustainable world. Now, We know it can be a challenge to implement change, so we've also included some case studies in the guide, and you're now going to hear from some of them about the things they've done to cut carbon emissions, cut waste, and inspire games players. So it's goodbye from me, and thanks.
Hi there, I'm Nic. I work at Ape Games, looking after some of our technology teams that run and operate our games in our studio. I've been working on our sustainability efforts at the studio since 2019. Ape Games is about 120 people, and we make games that millions of people play on their phones and tablets from anywhere in the world. We were founded in 2012 and have released 4 titles, and a whole host are in development, including one in soft launch right now that we're very excited about, called Beatstar. Today, I'm going to share some background on a case study we've worked on for the Green Games Guide. The case study is about how we took our studio carbon neutral, and hopefully I can share a little bit about what's involved and perhaps pull the curtain back a little bit about what it means to go carbon neutral. The first step in going carbon neutral is to define what it is that makes up your carbon footprint. And there are some good frameworks for this. We broadly follow the greenhouse gas protocols at SpaceApe, and using this, we worked out the key things that we wanted to account for in our footprint. We included all kinds of things related to our office space, so our electricity bills, gas, water. We included our transport, all the flights we'd take, the hotel rooms we'd stay in, the commutes we make in and out of the office, as well as the deliveries we take. Another major component we wanted to take account of was cloud computing, and also the mobile device usage by all of our players. That's the energy that they're using while they're playing our games on their phones and their tablets. Now, once we've got a list of the things that we want to be part of our carbon footprint, we want to go about measuring that. Now, this is a big old data collection phase. It's a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of numbers, lots of talking to suppliers. It's also a phase in which you have to get pretty comfortable with making estimates. You won't always be able to find the exact data you need. For example, the company who makes our monitors, they don't share the carbon footprint associated with making those monitors. So we have to estimate based on data from manufacturers of other similar screens. And the key here is, if you're not confident in the data, estimate pessimistically, so that the ultimate number you come up with for your carbon footprint is definitely not lower than reality. Now, for understanding the carbon footprint of playing our games, we measured the number of hours folks spent playing our games and multiplied that by the energy use of a smartphone, and then worked out the emissions associated with that energy use for the country they were playing it in. Now, it sounds complicated, but once you have the data, and we found all this online, it's really not too tricky. And for everything else, it's either a matter of talking to suppliers or talking to people within the business. For example, we surveyed everyone's travel habits to build up the carbon impact of their commutes. And we spoke to building management and travel bookers to give us the data we needed on flights and our building energy use. After a whole lot of spreadsheeting and double checking, you end up with a carbon footprint for your business for the year. And for us in 2018, our first year of measuring it, it was about 750 tons and another 180 tons from player devices. We had made commitments to the UN's Playing for the Planet Alliance that we would offset 200% of our studio footprint and 100% of the emissions associated with our players playing our games. And in total, that came to about 1,700 tons that we were looking to offset. Now, offsetting is a simple idea. You fund projects that remove or prevent greenhouse gas emissions. But the challenge is finding high quality offsets that deliver tangible and measurable change. There are lots of projects out there, and it's not entirely clear which ones provide the best benefits. It's definitely worth looking for offsets that are backed by accreditation, like Verra or Gold Standard. These organizations publish a whole lot of data about the projects they accredit and let you really get an insight into how they work and how they're able to claim the offset that you're buying, the rationale. You'll also find that offsets vary in both the kind of project they are and the kind of benefits they bring. You might prefer projects around renewable energy like hydropower, or There are projects to help communities around the world, like usually around things like using fuel more efficiently for cooking, or they might deploy water filters to families so that they don't need to boil water anymore. Or you might look to forestry or tree planting or land use change offsets. All of these have their own benefits and their own costs. One thing that marks high quality offsets apart from the verification and the accreditation, is that they have good impacts on the communities that those projects are running in. Some might offer jobs or education opportunities or health benefits, and they're often aligned with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. These are nice additional benefits to these kinds of offsets. The final stage of the process we undertook is the hardest. It's also the most important. It's all about mitigating your studio's carbon footprint as much as possible. Carbon offsets only get us so far. They're not scalable, and they really are only a stopgap as we move towards more sustainable practices across the board, across the industry, across the planet. We committed to reduce our studio's carbon footprint by 10% in 2020, and we're doing the same this year. We initially hoped to do this in 2020 by reducing the number of flights we took and by moving our building's electricity supplier over to a renewable one. But then COVID hit and we've not flown anywhere for a year. Obviously, we're going to have to keep an eye on our international travel as the opportunities to do so come back online, and resist the temptation to go back to the old practices of flying frivolously. Another aspect of mitigation we looked at was around daily behaviors. We made an effort to make recycling easier in the office. We looked at our regular grocery shops and made sure that we reduced the number of plastics that we were buying. We bought reusable coffee cups so folk can take them out with them when they go for a coffee, so they don't need to use a disposable cup. They're all little things, but they're behaviors that we hope, writ large, can have a wider impact. Finally, in the longer term, keeping on reducing our carbon footprint year on year is going to need partners that are green. We're a pretty small studio, so we use a lot of third parties. For example, we use the cloud to operate our games and business systems. We need to make sure over time that all of our different partners are aligned with our own sustainability goals, and to start bringing those conversations into our purchasing decisions. And that's it. 4-step process we took to start the studio on its journey to long-term sustainability. Define your carbon footprint, measure it, mitigate as much as you can, and offset what you can't mitigate. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Jane from Ustwo Games, and I'm going to tell you about our contribution to the Green Games Guide. Ustwo Games' latest game, Alba: A Wildlife Adventure, is an exploration game about the importance of standing up for the environment, wildlife, local communities, and how small actions can make a big difference. Whilst the game itself helps inspire players to think about the environment and to support Alba's environmentally conscious message, Ustwo Games have committed to planting 1 tree for each copy of the game sold or downloaded, with the overall goal of planting 1 million trees. During the development of Alba: A Wildlife Adventure, Ustwo Games were able to create successful partnerships with experts in the environmental and conservation field, and found that many were very willing to offer their time and expertise in order to help support game companies spread more awareness to their players. Ustwo Games have observed that players are responding very positively to the social impact side of Alba, with reviews and social media posts describing that players were left feeling inspired after playing the game. The tree planting initiative is receiving really positive press, which helps Alba to reach new audiences. I hope some of our experiences have been helpful to learn about and are able to help inspire other games companies to bring green nudges into their new games.
Hi, my name's Jude Ower and I'm the founder and CEO of Playmob. We are a market insights platform leveraging gaming to get gamers to speak up on global issues that they care about on a regular basis, so that we can give these voices and opinions to world leaders and decision makers globally to make better decisions for people and the planet. So in the Green Game Guide, we've mentioned Mission 1.5, which is an initiative that we're running with the UN, and in particular UNDP. Now, the UN came to us a couple of years ago and said that the Paris Climate Change Agreement, which has countries committing to how they're going to reduce their carbon emissions. They've set these things called the NDCs, the National Determined Contributions. However, it's very climate wonky, and the person on the street, just doesn't know what an NDC is. They may know a bit about the policy, but not in particular around an NDC. So how are we going to tell the world and get the global public better understanding what policies could change when it comes to carbon emissions and reducing carbon emissions, and leveraging the power of people's voices? The goal was to get people to learn about these choices that could be made, get them to speak up, and give these voices and votes to world leaders in order to change policy. And how we wanted to do this was through gaming. So we've been working with the UN over the past 18 months to roll out to over 50 markets, and we have many more markets to roll out to. Essentially taking a mini game, a playable advert called Mission 1.5, and rolling it out within in-game media, so that players have got the opportunity to play as a world leader. They make decisions, and then they vote on what they care about. Now, we've reached around 33 million people across the 50 markets. It's now classed as the world's biggest poll on climate attitudes that's ever been taken, and we've got more countries to roll out to. In terms of some of the findings that we found so far, so 64% of people think that climate change is an emergency. So the data that's actually coming from the game is being analysed by professional pollsters in Oxford University, and so we're ensuring that the data is really robust and a representative sample per market and to represent the world. So we can accurately say that 64% of people globally think that climate change is an emergency. In terms of what people care most about, the top thing that people really care about is around conservation and forests and land. The second thing is around solar, wind and renewable power. The third thing is around more climate-friendly farming techniques. And the fourth thing that people really care about is around investing in green business. Interestingly, things that people care least about are plant-based diets. So we're still having a battle with trying to get people to eat less meat, but that's a big behaviour change, so that may come over time. And promoting insurance, so protecting ourselves against climate disasters. So this is just the start of kind of scratching the surface of what data can be uncovered around what people really care about when it comes to climate change. But the really valuable thing about this data is that it's actually getting into the hands of world leaders in order to change policy so that we can be reducing carbon emissions quicker. And the only way we can get this data is through gaming, through mobile gaming, because gaming reaches all corners of the planet. We're reaching countries that have never had a vote on climate action before, or people who have never been able to vote on climate action because of where they are, or they may be under 18. And these are the generations that are going to be impacted the most. And some of the countries that have been impacted the most on climate change haven't had a voice until now. So this has been truly, truly groundbreaking. We've got more markets to roll out to, and what we've been seeing and what we've been told is that this is just scratching the surface. This is just the start of what gaming can do to really raise awareness of climate action, get gamers to speak up. 3 billion people are playing games. That's 40% of the global population. So that's one big voice when you collect them all together. And so the next part of this is not just asking world leaders to take action and change policy, but looking at the CEOs and the executive boards of the top the financial institutions, the energy companies, the companies that are really putting climate front and center of the strategies. We can give this information to organisations that can really make a change in the world. And so our ask to the game community is that we can work together to access more players, to give them a voice on what they really care about. And to work with us in order for us to become the channel to give that data to the people who can really make a difference in the world. So there's a case study of Mission 1.5 in the Green Game Guide. Please take a look and please get in touch if you want to get involved. Thank you.
My name is Siiri Mäkelä and I'm from the UN Environment Programme. I'm going to tell you what the video games industry is doing for our planet. So, the Playing for the Planet initiative is first of its kind. It was an idea that came in discussions between the UN Environment Programme, Playmob and Grid Arendal in 2019 that called on a group of video game companies to make commitments for both people and the planet. In joining the alliance, members are asked to make specific, measurable and time-bound commitments ranging from integrating green activations in games, reducing their emissions and supporting the global environmental agenda. And we are already making a difference. Within our first year, we had 29 companies signing up on a shared mission to act on the environmental agenda, to explore the power of gameplay, and to begin to rewire the industry away from carbon. And already, 2/3 of the Alliance members have committed to decarbonize their platforms. The 2020 Green Game Jam was a great way to explore how we can leverage gameplay for the environmental agenda. The jam reached 100 million people and has led to planting of thousands of trees, raised funds for wildlife conservation, and secured commitments from players to change the way they behave. To our Alliance members, thank you for all your work and efforts in the first year of this initiative. And to everyone else in the industry, come and join our mission. The door is open. We have bigger plans for 2021. To grow the Playing for the Planet Alliance, to inspire collective action around the theme of restoration and conservation of forests and oceans, and to provide more insight and research to help the game sector to play a leading role in the urgent fight against climate change. We'd love you to join us.